I'm Wayne Moore with Castanet News, speaking with RCMP Superintendent Nick Romanchuk. Nick, violent crime in the city of Kelowna. There's been a perception over the summer. We've had 3 murders in town since the beginning of April. There was a shooting in Rutland, an unexplained shooting in Rutland. The perception of violent crime. How does the RCMP deal with that, and do you see that as a problem?
So perception is always something that's difficult to deal with, and one or two major crimes that are reported heavily in the media can have a fairly big impact on what people think about crime in the community. But realistically, crime over the last few years in Kelowna has been on the decrease. I would say that the numbers don't bear out that we actually are having an increase in violent crime for sure. But like I say, when you have a few incidents in a relatively short period of time, then sometimes that perception can be borne out.
So you talk about perception and the fact that I guess beauty is in the eye of the beholder in some instances. How does the RCMP, do you have to deal with this with the general public on a daily basis or on a timely basis as far as what's happening in the city and where crime is going?
So I think we try to report out as much as we can on what's occurring and so on. It's always a difficult thing how people perceive what's going on in the community, but if I look back to the City of Kelowna Citizen Survey, the most recent one, 94% of people said they felt safe in the community. So to me, that's a very good barometer of what the mood is like in the city. And I know if you went back a number of years, there were a lot more serious type of incidents that occurred in terms of, there used to be drive-by shootings and other things that would occur in Kelowna. And there was kind of a bad period there a number of years ago. And I think we've got past that. At least we're fortunate, and hopefully we can keep it there. And one of the things that I've noticed as some of that crime decreases and it stays there for a while, when something does happen, it becomes more prominent. It stands out more than if something's happening or something happens more frequently too. So it's always a challenge, and we try to get the best information out to people. But really, I don't see that the numbers are climbing. And even though we might have a spike in 1 month or over a summer, if you look at the downward trends or the trends over a period of time, they are trending down, and that's a good thing.
You mentioned the citizen survey and safety. Everybody defines safe and safety differently. How does the RCMP define safety?
And I think you're right. Safety can mean different things to different people. It may mean that people feel comfortable walking through their neighborhood at night. They may feel comfortable driving downtown, parking their car, walking to a restaurant or to some other venue without fear of their vehicle being broken into, or without fear of being accosted, or whatever the case may be. Safety is it's really something that's hard to put a definition to. It's more of a state of mind, and certainly Kelowna, when I walk through it at night or anytime really, I don't see it as an unsafe city. And I've been in some cities where I'm definitely looking over my shoulder a little bit more. So I think it tends to be up to the person. I would think the demographic may have something to do with it. An elderly or a younger person may perceive their level of safety differently than, say, a middle-aged person might, or a male or female too. So that's a real tough one. But I think if people are comfortable using their community, then that's a good barometer of what they feel in terms of safety for their community.
Part of the impetus for this interview was an incident in Rutland a few months ago, a very strange shooting incident. Is there concern about increased gun violence in the city?
So something like this, when it does occur, does stand out. It's not uncommon when we do see those types of incidents that they're committed by a group of people who know each other. In this particular case, people weren't particularly forthcoming with what happened, which tends to put things in a different light than if it was a stranger that was involved, or an innocent person who happened to be in the area. So very, very different type of circumstances. And but I can say, fortunately, that we deal with very little gun violence in the community, which is a very good thing.
When you talk about violent crime, the gang influence in the city naturally comes up. what is the RCMP doing right now as far as gang-related activities? Is it staying the course? Have you done anything differently? The reason I'm asking is appears to be a perception that maybe things have backed off a little bit. Is that the case?
You know, take for example center of gravity. We bring up the Uniform Gang Task Force to work with our members during that weekend because we do see an influx of gangsters that come into the community at that time. But we also have dedicated people here that work specifically targeting gangs and their movements in the community and so on. So they're not overly overt, so people may not necessarily know that they're out there doing what they do, but we do have a group of people that primarily focus on nothing but that. They work with the liquor establishments and other places to address these people in our community, and they're doing a pretty good job at it.
I was hoping, Superintendent, to get an update on a few homicides that are still on the books. That are not solved. We've got 4 of them. One, Mr. Alawalia from earlier this year in Black Mountain, the Chris Osman case from 2014 in Rutland, and a couple of 2013s, Teresa Neville, Glenmore, and also Jeremy Snow and Tiffany Gorick from West Kelowna. Back in 2013. Can you shed any light on any of these investigations?
So I won't really discuss the Snow-Gorick investigation because that's being handled by another unit. That's being handled by our major crime unit out of Southeast District. So we'll let them comment on it, but I can tell you that it's still an active investigation. In terms of the others, all are very active. And we've seen some homicides over the last while that are very I won't call them simple, but they're more cut and dried. We have a suspect fairly quickly. We're able to arrest and lay charges quickly. And, you know, we've seen that in a number of cases. The bus homicide from last year was one of them, and a couple others come to mind. But some of them can be very, very complicated and difficult to investigate. They take a lot of time. There isn't a lot of evidence that's forthcoming. People may not be as cooperative as we would like them to be in some cases. And it's just a very slow grind sometimes to get to the bottom of these, but all of them are being actively investigated. We have people, a serious crime unit that really focuses on nothing but those homicides, and it's not like watching NYPD Blue. And I always use this analogy. They come in the morning, there'd be a murder. By the time they got to the scene, they knew exactly how the person was killed, what caliber of bullet it was. They'd go drink some coffee, they'd arrest somebody, they'd slap them around in an interview, they'd have a confession, and they'd be drinking beer by that evening. It doesn't happen that way. And it's just a long, slow, methodical process in a lot of cases.
So overall, this is the last area I want to go, and to kind of wrap this up. Violence, I guess basically what you're saying is perception is not necessarily reality. People should feel safe in the city. What would be your I guess parting wish for the citizens of Kelowna as far as violent crime and violence in the city?
So I think the most important thing is we have a very dedicated group of police officers in Kelowna who work very hard day in and day out. We follow a process where we identify who we believe are the biggest threats to community safety, and we call it CompStat, and it's certainly not something that we invented. It was invented back in New York a number of years ago, quite a number of years ago, but it's a process of, to me, it's about accountability where we make sure that our resources are directed in the right place, and we have a group of crime analysts who analyze a whole bunch of data and see who's out there doing what, and we make our operational decisions based on that. And really try to focus on those people who cause the greatest harm to the community. And by doing that, we tend to see positive results. And I think that's shown over the last few years. But really, Kelowna is a safe community. Like I say, 94% of the community feel that way. We have a lot of visitors that come to the community every year, and I don't think we'd see that number of people if this was an unsafe place to be. And it's a great community. People I see out enjoying it all the time, and really I don't think people have anything to be concerned about.
I'm Wayne Moore, Castanet News. I'd like to thank RCMP Superintendent Nick Romanchuk for taking time out in his busy day to talk with us about violent crime.